The California wildfires. Are they just another Rainier paradigm? Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. Today we're going to talk about whether or not the California wildfires are just like the Rainier paradigm and hence another Rainier paradigm. But before we talk about that, we need to say thank you to quite a few people. How many people? Well, we've got over 3,200 subscribers now. Just a year ago, in November, we started this channel with no subscribers, and look how far we've come. I really have to thank everybody for subscribing. I also want you to leave your comments. You guys have been leaving comments all year. I try to answer them as quickly as I can, but thank you for leaving your comments. And please leave comments about stories you would like to see or things you'd like me to do on the channel. Finally, I would like to thank you, if you haven't done so yet, check us out on Patreon. If you can spare $3 or $4 a month, sponsor this channel, because you're not only sponsoring this channel, you'll also be sponsoring my Books in Hindsight podcast channel, which you can check out on Books in Hindsight, where we talk to the latest and greatest in authors. All right, so today we're talking about whether or not the California fires are actually another Rainier paradigm. So what do we mean by Rainier paradigm? Well, Rainier paradigm is a phrase that comes from the book The Rainier Paradigm by me. And the Rainier paradigm simply means that it is something that happens as the result of man messing around with nature, and usually it's because man is messing around with nature with nefarious purposes in mind. All right, so in the case of the Rainier paradigm, you had a global, or not a global elite, an elite of military, corporate leaders, and political leaders that get together and they decide they're going to use this weapon in Alaska that's known as an ionosphere heater. They call it the Herpy, and they're going to crank it up and they are going to use it to set off a Mount Rainier. Now, the Rainier paradigm comes about when you muck about with nature and you don't know what the consequences are actually going to be. And so if you look in the Rainier paradigm, you're going to see that they're very fearful of one result of setting off that mountain, but they decide to go ahead anyway. Now, does that sound like a familiar story? All right, so let's turn our attention to the California wildfires. Now, there has been a lot of information coming out of California, and the first thing that came out of California was not even from California. It was from President Trump himself, and he said that the government was responsible for those fires because of the way they are mismanaging the forests. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, if you let these rotten trees stay in the forest, it's just kindling that is waiting for a spark to to start other forest fires in a dry condition, which will rapidly spread, which is what has happened in California repeatedly. Yet they have done nothing to alleviate this problem. Okay, so the government is involved, and people are already saying that the government is to blame. Now, there are a number of theories, of course, that are coming out now about how the fires got started. We're going to talk about why the fires got started, but let's talk about the theories first. Okay, so if you listen to Carrie Cassidy on Project Camelot, she seems to think there's some kind of laser weapon that is being used, and she seems to think that the fire originated or burned near a basically a toxic waste dump, which was a missile, they call it a missile stand, which I imagine they tested missiles there and dumped rocket fuel. But I don't actually know. So that substances, the hundreds of millions of gallons, burned and went up into the atmosphere. So first of all, that's going to get people out of the area. And it's going to get people, just the story of that will get people out of the area quickly. And if you remember the Close Encounters, where they said that there was an anthrax scare, well, what better way to get people to flee an area than to say that there's toxic chemicals that have been ignited and are in the air. All right, so how else did the fire start? Today is the day before Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. But today they have come out and said, well, it started from a power line or a transformer or something. And originally they said that it started from a truck that had got a flat tire and had pulled off the side of the road. So there's all these different stories, from energy beams, laser weapons, to you have trucks that have flat tires, you have transformers shooting off sparks. So all kinds of different stories, but nobody really knows what happened. Now let's talk about why. Now, if you look at Alex Jones and Lisa Haven, well, they seem to point out a map put out by the UN that says they want all of the people out of the places that have been burned by these wildfires. Okay, so there's one theory. Now, another theory that was talked about on Carrie Cassidy's Project Camelot, one of her viewers came in and said that that area is the planned route for a high-speed rail. And the reason that they burn these people out is because it's just too expensive to buy them out as it is. So then we go back to the Rainier Paradigm, where they want to kill everybody. They brought in all these simpletons into Seattle, and they want to kill them all so they can resell the real estate. So that kind of ties back to the Rainier Paradigm. All right, so you have a lot of theories, you have a lot of tragedy, you have a lot of government mismanagement, and I'm sure in the end we're going to find out that somebody somewhere was behind all of this. Now, the question I have to ask you is, in our age of technology, and in the Rainier Paradigm, you have what is called an ionosphere heater that sets off Mount Rainier. But in California, was all of this really necessary? Did we really need laser-guided weapons or laser beams or anything else to start the fire? No, we just needed one of these. So, you be the judge. The California wildfires, are they the Rainier Paradigm? We'll see you next time on Deceptions of the Ages News.